You're listening to the Persistence Mastery Podcast to give your communication skills the clarity edge with your host, Paul Leon.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to talk about, is AI killing communication skills? And simply put, no, it's actually not. In fact, it's actually the opposite. Now more than ever, when it comes to artificial intelligence or generative AI, the ability to communicate efficiently, articulate storytelling, and do it in a way that's impactful or really going to capture or influence individuals is in demand more than ever. However, what AI will do for your communication skills, it's going to streamline a lot of different really meticulous tasks we all used to run into. And that's the thing I do like about AI. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about how do we leverage AI to help us be more influential or help us have a more impactful presentation communication with our day to day. And here's how we can do that. And a couple things before you take on these tips and tricks is be mindful of your company's policy around AI. Many companies do not want you to use ChatGPT for a lot of different reasons. It can get information out too quickly. There are approved ones that your company might use, and it's a good idea before you start using this tool is just have a simple conversation with your leadership or manager to ask, like, hey, I really considering using artificial intelligence or AI to streamline some of the work I'm doing. I don't want to violate the company. I don't want to do anything to put us at risk. Is there specific tools that we can use? And the answer is yes. There is one by Microsoft Windows that's really powerful that a lot of companies are using, and that's an approved one. Or if you have a Grammarly account, that's a really good one where it has generative AI built into the platform. So again, before you take these tips and tricks to heart and just run with them, it might be a good idea to have a civil conversation with your manager or someone else just to simply ask, what can I do? How can I use it? Here are my ideas. Now, with that said, let's jump into it. So, the first thing you can do when using artificial intelligence to elevate your communication skills is for it to generate ideas. This is something I do quite often where, let's say, I'm struggling on how to create a roadmap, or I'm struggling on maybe some key foundational principles or how to articulate it on paper. I'll simply use AI and just ask a simple question like, hey, I need to create some principles around what a beginner salesperson looks like. What does that look like? And it can start to generate some pretty impactful ideas. And that will help you get your brain working and say, okay, I like that. I like that. Based on my experience, that's not really pragmatic. And that's kind of one of the downfalls of AI. So, yeah, it's great for generating ideas, but it doesn't take into account your personal experience or how to really craft or word something that makes a difference. For example, I was using it to say, how would I create some founding principles to define what a beginner salesperson looks like on a project I was working on some time back? And it talked about how to teach salespeople to use the word contract. The reality is that's actually a buzzword for a lot of customers. Instead of saying contract, you want to say agreement. An agreement will be produced, an agreement that we will move forward to get you this result. And when a lot of customers hear the word contract, they hear commitment, they hear uh, I'm tied down, or I have to, like, my time is not my own. And that can be pretty scary. So I had to correct that quickly with AI. And that's based on my own personal experience. So that's something you also want to be mindful of. Don't just copy and paste the first thing it produces. You need to put your own experience and eyes on that document it produces and your own experience. Remember, you're the subject matter expert using the tool. The tool is not using you as the subject matter expert. So that's one way you can use artificial intelligence to elevate your communication skills. When you're kind of stuck and you need to generate ideas, that's a really impactful way. Another way you can really use artificial intelligence is, and this is something that comes from doing a lot of cold calling in my career. And this also comes from my stand up comedy that I've done as a hobby on the side. The more words it takes to get to the value proposition in the corporate world, the less impact it has for your leadership, client, etc. And in the comedic world, the less words it takes to get to the punchline in your joke, the more impact it can typically have with your audience. So, what you can do is, let's say you write out a script, let's say a sales script, and you want to get to the value proposition faster as you read it out loud, but you're kind of stuck. Well, simply just take what you wrote, copy and paste it, and just say, I want to keep the essence of this value proposition and what I've written here. I want to say it in less words. How would you write this in less words? And let it generate some interesting ideas of how you can get to that value proposition faster, how you can get to that punchline quicker. I was writing a joke about recently how my music tastes have changed with my kids, and it got a little wordy on paper. I plugged in the AI. I said, I want to take what I've written here for my own intelligence. How do I cut this down? And it gave me some pretty interesting ways to get to the punchline quicker. So, again, it can create ideas and it can shorten the path to getting your value statement out significantly faster. And the next way you can use AI is generating a vague template. So, going back to the outline, here are some ways you can use AI to really draft a strong outline. So, number one is you want to be specific. So, be specific. Now, a lot of what I'm going to share with you comes from Harvard University's information technology section. So, this is really good. And I'm going to put this article and a link to it in the description of this podcast episode. So, number one, again, is be specific. Number two, you can also type in act as if. So if you wanted to work a certain way, you can simply ask the AI to act as if you are someone in your kitchen, or act as if you're a sales manager coaching someone, to create some outline parameters. You can also tell it how you want your output to be presented. That's important in order to leverage AI. And you want to include code stories, reports, summaries, synopses, or maybe some types of business communication, depending on the tools you're using. And then you're also going to leverage use do and don't. Telling it what you do and do not want will help you save time. Like saying, hey, can you write me a recipe for this food article for your meal? Don't do this. Act as my personal trainer, though, and do this. And it'll start to generate some interesting examples. You also want to give it examples of sentences in a paragraph that you like to help duplicate your voice and how you want to create this in the end. And then remember this, though, you have to consider your tone and audience, who you're speaking to, what are their needs. My last episode on influencing foundations, we talked about how it's important that we want to create that eager want. And maybe that might be a way you use the AI, saying, I want to create this eager want for my audience. And I really want to get this impact across to help it leverage your thinking when you're creating and using this tool. And then build on previous prompts as well. Correct its mistakes, give it feedback. And what's also neat is how you can ask it to create your prompts, or what else it needs from you, is also an interesting, kind of scary sometimes way that we can leverage AI. So again, I want to summarize this episode by saying, if you're going to take these tips and you're going to start leveraging AI, and maybe you already have, it may be a good idea for you to first start, if you work in a corporate setting, to have a civil conversation with your boss. Let them know, hey, I'm considering using this tool and to help us be more efficient and help get us an ROI on this result and save us some time so we can get some results. I think you'll find, if you produce it and frame it in that way, that most of the time they'll get on board with you. And when you get on board with your boss, you get on board and using AI to help you be a stronger communicator, you'll start to flourish and save some more time to be a more impactful communicator in your day to day.
Thank you for listening to the Persistence Mastery Podcast. Subscribe to where you listen to podcasts. And if you want to hire Paul to train or speak for your team, visit persistencemastery.com and fill out the request training form.